Harvey Weinstein was the king of Hollywood, a mogul with 81 Oscars to his name.
The Harvey I knew was brilliant. I mean, truly a brilliant man.
He ran this town. He was the guy.
But we'll show you what actually happened behind his locked office door.
The game was about power. It was about making you capitulate, making you give in. Forcing seduction on you.
And speak to those who say they paid an awful price for being in Weinstein's world.
He ruined lives. He crushed dreams. I still am scared of him. He is a master predator.
Now Hollywood's dirty secret is out in the open.
We knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew.
And the reckoning isn't over.
It's important for other men to know, you want to act this way, then you're going to lose everything.
Mr. Weinstein, Hannah Thomas Peter from Sky News. I wonder, could you tell me, do you believe all of those women are lying? Do you believe they're lying, sir?
Thank you very much.
Are you ashamed? Any messages for the women? Harvey Weinstein has refused all of our requests for an interview, so we tracked him down on the street. He still wouldn't talk, but the women who say he altered their lives forever will. To try and understand what happened, we listened to stories like Rose McGowan's, who was one of the first celebrities to accuse him of sexual assault. It was 1997, and she was at the Sundance Film Festival, already a star in the making. Weinstein invited her to his hotel room, where, she says, he raped her.
Skilled predators take a lion. They look for the weakest one in the pack, don't they? The one without the protection. Because there were actresses he didn't target because they had better representation or better people around them. Or there was something, they didn't have that crack, maybe. But he targeted an awful lot. And like a super predator, you know, with night vision goggles on, he saw what he needed to see, and he did what he needed to do. His whole world was set up to rape, to consume, to eat people's lives. He's a dastardly human.
I'd heard of the casting couch. I thought maybe that was like a rite of passage. And I felt like, if this is how other people make it, like it's really depressing and against everything that I believe in. But when you're in a more vulnerable position, you really don't have a choice, is what I felt happened. That he kind of made it seem like this was the only way that he would, and it's the only way that he would ever do it for anyone else. I felt like I said no, and he didn't even acknowledge it. I felt like I had to do it. So how is he about it? He was calm and collected. This was his, like, MO. He had a system to lure them up, ask for the massage, come out in the towel, robe. He was just acted like it was normal.
Give Weinstein what he wanted or forfeit a dream. That's the choice Dawn Dunning says she had to make too. She's a costume designer now, but back in 2003, she was a young actress looking for her big break. She met Weinstein while she was working in a nightclub, and he said he could help. After several screen tests, she went to what she thought was a business meeting in a hotel suite.
When I got there, he opened the door and he was in an open robe. On the coffee table, he had 3 small stacks of paper. And he said, "These are contracts for my next 3 films. I will sign them today, but I want you to have a threesome with me and my assistant." I laughed. I thought he was joking. And when I started laughing, he got angry. And that's when I got scared. He started yelling at me. And He said, "You'll never make it in this business. This is how this industry works. This is how," he named 3 actresses. "This is how they got to where they are." He went on, and then at that point, the door was pretty close behind me, and I just turned and went for the door. I could still hear him yelling.
The more powerful he got, the more blatant the alleged behaviour. It was an open secret in Hollywood. But even those who exercised caution say they were targets, like Louisette Geiss, who was invited to pitch a script at the Sundance Festival.
He said, "Well, why don't we reconvene in my office?" Well, they turn hotel rooms into offices when you're at these festivals. That's just the norm. But I still felt a little hesitant, obviously. I knew that this was a huge opportunity, and I didn't want to give that opportunity up. But at the same time, I looked at him in the eye and I said, "There's a camera right there, so I'll go up to your office and meet with you, but you're not allowed to touch me." And I said, "You have to shake my hand."
Inside the room, Louisette says things changed.
He pulled me to his bathroom and we both stood in front of the mirror. And he's like, "Just watch me." He wanted me to watch him masturbate. And finally, I just ripped my arm away and he followed me out of the room saying, "Look, I can give you a 3-picture deal. I can greenlight your film. Like, this is ridiculous. This is all you have to do. Everybody does it. There's lots of other women who have done this." Personally, I think he enjoyed the switch, which is then he comes out, he's naked. It's a whole different tone. The energy's different. It's much more aggressive and angry. And he watches us, like almost like the prey, like, okay, now what are you gonna do? I think he loved the power struggle. I think he loved to watch in our faces the fear. That's what I truly believe.
But in this case, the legal argument was...
Weinstein apparently cast his net wide. Lauren Sivan was a young reporter when she met him at a dinner party in a restaurant he part-owned. He offered her a tour of the kitchen and she followed him.
I realized that this was a bad situation and I said, "I'm gonna go back upstairs. I saw the kitchen, I'm good." He leaned in to kiss me and I said, "I'm so sorry if I gave you the wrong impression, but I'm not interested. I'm dating someone, I'm gonna go back upstairs." And at that point he got kind of irritated and he asked me, just stand there and be quiet. And I was a little shocked to hear that because his tone changed dramatically, but he blocked my exit. And I thought to myself, what is he gonna do? And that's when he just started masturbating in front of me. And I just stood there kind of frozen. I was 27, 28 when I had this encounter with him. And I just remember feeling stupid, feeling really dumb, standing there and watching this man, do what he was doing and thinking to myself, how could I be so dumb? How could I think that he was really interested in me and what I had to say about news and history and world politics? He had a plan. He knew exactly how to get me down there. And just the callousness of it, like, just stand there and be quiet then, because this is going to happen whether you participate or not. That struck me as something that he's done before.
Sarah Ann Mass went to Weinstein's home to be interviewed for a job as his children's nanny. There, she says, he assaulted her.
I had sort of been warned by his assistants ahead of time that, he's a Hollywood guy, they're kind of different. But I never translated that to mean that he was going to, sexually assault me. During the whole incident, it was just shock and fear and discomfort because, you're in a professional environment. It's certainly not something you're expecting. And he also had a huge anger outburst of his children. So it was just like a very terrifying experience for me. And I remember really distinctly driving there. I remember the road I took and the exit and everything. And then I don't remember getting home.
I constantly felt trapped. He cornered me over and over again.
Every woman we talked to described the same feeling of being caught in Weinstein's web. Entrepreneur Melissa Thompson says he raped her after a business meeting.
I never had a choice. Like, it's Harvey's choice. And it's like Harvey is playing cards with a stacked deck. The outcomes are fixed. The women lose. I felt like, who would care if I said anything?
There is still a profound sense of loss over what might have been. Louise Godbold was a young woman when she had her own experience with Weinstein. Now she's a trauma specialist, a choice shaped by what happened to her.
Many of us are mourning the careers that we could have had. I think that's the number one thing that's being mourned. There are very many women who are saying that their careers could have been so much more illustrious had Harvey not set about destroying them.
When you have someone who is the most powerful man in Hollywood telling you this is how it works, I believe them, like that, was coming from the horse's mouth. I was like, okay, this is, not gonna work for me because I'm not willing, to go that far for it,
When you're kind of almost hunted and treated like a piece of meat, that does something to you. No woman at any stage of her life should be told that you have to do a sexual act in order to have a career. I'm sorry, but it's pretty basic.
Harvey Weinstein has always maintained that any sexual encounters were consensual. But his accusers say he preyed on vulnerable young women, unchecked, for nearly 3 decades. They want to know how and why it continued for so long. There are lots of reasons why no one stood up to Harvey Weinstein. One of them is that well before he was famous, he was known as a bully. In the summer of 1980, Paula Wojciak worked for Weinstein on his first film. It was a horror called The Burning. Paula was to become one of the earliest alleged victims of Weinstein's inappropriate behavior.
I didn't realize how upset I was until I got outside the door and I kind of started shaking and I broke down and started crying.
Later on set, Paula says Weinstein tracked her down to gloat about exposing himself.
He walked up behind me and said, "So, was it the high point of your internship to see me naked?" And I just said, "No, Harvey, frankly, you disgust me." And he laughed and he went. He had no other reason to be there except to torment me.
Former employees say it only got worse from there. Harvey and his brother Bob moved to New York City to run their film company, Miramax.
They were cruel, both of them. Harvey in particular, but Bob was right there with him.
Mark Lipsky was the head of marketing.
They couldn't help themselves. Every girl in the office cried. I don't know what the expense budget was for flowers, but lots of money was spent on, next day apologies and begging forgiveness. I think a lot of people who worked for them felt stuck.
Why don't you think anybody stopped him?
He's a big, scary guy. The people surrounding both of them, but Harvey in particular, were completely dependent on him and on the company for their careers. And they were scary guys.
But it wasn't just about fear. Weinstein was a force of nature, and people were drawn to him.
We all struggled trying to follow social norms around him, and he unfooted us all. And he was a very charismatic, confusing, powerful, frightening, exciting, fun too, person to be around. And, he played with all those emotions with you all the time. So you were always in a sort of state of slight confusion and survival with him. He knew how humans worked. That's what made him such a great storyteller, such a great producer.
The thing with abusive relationships is that people keep coming back to them or rationalizing the behavior. That definitely happened. The thing was that there was such... It's almost unfair to talk about the bad behavior without talking about the bits of glamour and the excitement and working with all the creative people that you were surrounded with. The circles he ran in were extraordinary. Okay, you step into the room. Madonna says, this is Jean-Paul Gaultier, and these guys, they're Depeche Mode. There was something sort of very heady about the atmosphere, so it was like you would give up some of your own humility to stick in the job or to stay in the kind of life.
For Sky News, if we may.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Harvey could be explosive. He could be the way he would verbally attack people that worked for him was vicious. It was really awful. I mean, he would reduce people to tears, but it always seemed in service of what he wanted best for a particular film or a particular project. So in a way, in my mind, I excused it. I said, well, he's just that passionate about, what he wants for this movie.
Michael Apostolina was head of creative affairs at Miramax in the late 80s and early 90s.
I guess there was enough that was so extraordinary and that you were learning so much and that, you would work on something and in the next month it would be in theaters nationwide and there would be Oscar talk. So the horrible part seemed not okay, but I guess this is the price, that you have to pay.
Things moved at breakneck speed. For Bob Weinstein's assistant, Kathy DeClesis, there was little time to think clearly about what might have been happening.
We were distributing, 16, 18 films a year? It was insane what was going on there. I remember working probably 80, 90 hours a week, consistently. So you would see something out of the corner of your eye when you're running down a hallway, like Harvey flirting with a new blonde receptionist out at the front. And you're like, okay, so he's just being a weasel, cheating on his wife. But never did I ever think that there was more than that going on. He was just being kind of lecherous,
In 1990, a serious incident revealed things were apparently much worse than that. But still, Weinstein remained untouchable.
A lawsuit was delivered to the office. It was disseminated verbally about what the contents of this lawsuit were, which was that he had sexually attacked or molested an intern. And it all made sense because this young woman, she had worked there for a while. She was very, very young, very eager, and one day just poof, she vanished.
I opened this one envelope and from an attorney's office, and this was a very different kind of a letter. All I saw was red. I was completely and utterly disgusted and furious.
Everybody started talking about it, and more started coming out. Another employee who I can't name pulled me aside at one point and said, boy, on this lawsuit, on this one, he's really gonna have to pay a lot this time. And I was like, this time? So we knew, everybody knew.
Even with the allegation as common knowledge, nothing happened to Harvey Weinstein. Bob Weinstein says that he cannot recall the incident and has always insisted that he didn't know about the extent of his brother's alleged harassment and assault of women.
Do you think that Bob knew what his brother might have been doing behind closed doors?
Well, he certainly knew when I handed him the letter that came from the law office. Harvey got a letter, Bob got a letter. Bob knew, of course he knew. Of course he knew. How do you not know? He was involved in the settlement for his brother.
After an argument, Kathy left.
I said, you know what? I quit, and your brother is a fucking pig.
People might listen to these stories and say, you had a responsibility to do something.
I did.
And you didn't.
And I didn't.
Why not?
That's a difficult question to answer. I want to fall back on, I was in my early 20s and it was naivete, but that's not really an excuse. It's not that we didn't have a concept of sexual harassment, but we didn't know what to do with it. This is terrible, but this is what I did. It seemed shrug-offable, you know?
I don't feel comfortable.
Honey, don't have a fight with me on the phone. Please, I'm not going to do anything. I swear, my children. Please come in. On everything. I'm a famous guy.
Even those who didn't shrug it off were thwarted. Model Ambra Batilana Gutierrez went as far as wearing a wire for the NYPD after she reported that Weinstein groped her.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable right now.
Please come in now. And 1 minute. And if you want to leave, when the guy comes with my jacket, you can go.
Yesterday you touched my wrist.
Oh, please, I'm sorry. Just come on. I'm used to that. Come on.
Are you used to that?
Yes, come in.
No, but I'm not used to that.
I won't do it again. Come on. Sit here.
But the Manhattan District Attorney's Office said the tape wasn't enough to prove a crime and declined to press charges. Others were quietly discouraged from making a fuss.
I was told that if I said anything that, you know, he's got a team of lawyers and you don't want to do that because they'll take me down and nobody's going to believe you.
Weinstein's assistant, Zelda Perkins, tried to take him on in the courts. After a colleague reported an attack, she spoke up and was silenced.
He had done something really heinous, and I felt it was partly my responsibility because I had left this girl with him to do her job. And so it was my responsibility to make sure that this was stopped and that this couldn't happen again. And I presumed that the law would back me up on that.
Instead, Weinstein's legal team swung into action. And like others, Zelda found herself signing a restrictive non-disclosure agreement.
It was made very clear to me right from the start, from my own representation, that I was on a losing ticket. And the power disparity was too large, and who was going to listen to us? Harvey behaved the way he behaved because he could. He could pay to shut everything down. He had the power to tell everybody what to do. He was above the law.
Interrupt. All right, hello, Melissa Thompson.
There have been many reports about what Harvey Weinstein did, but now we can show you an example of how he behaved behind closed doors.
How's your day?
How's your day?
The world watched as Weinstein walked the red carpets. Little evidence of his alleged behavior beyond rumor and gossip. Melissa Thompson changed that by trusting us to tell her story, one she's kept secret for 7 years, hoping it would reveal Weinstein's almost masterful ability to abuse his power. It's September 2011, and 28-year-old Melissa is in the Weinstein Company offices in New York City. She's here to pitch her tech startup company's new video platform, and as part of the demo, she's recording the meeting. She's expecting to see the marketing team, but Weinstein arrives alone, asks staff for privacy, and locks the door. Melissa says that a few hours after this, he raped her.
Interrupt. All right, hello, Melissa Thompson.
Hello, how are you?
How are you?
Happy New Year.
That's nice.
How's your day?
How's your day?
I was thinking, okay, he's hugging me. What do I do now?
I was sensing I have to be a little bit more vigilant of this situation than I originally thought. It is so painful to watch it back for multiple reasons, because I look at myself and I had no idea what was going on.
Melissa and Weinstein have met briefly once before, but this is their first formal encounter.
So how's it flirt with you?
Well, a little bit.
Not much, right? Okay, then all right, then I won't. So what do you want?
No, it's okay. So I have have your hand in so many things, and you do so many things. So I have a lot to tell you.
Every time that he towed the line of being inappropriate enough where I may have said something, he could sense it, and he pulled back and he changed the dynamic again.
Let's say I wanted to show a trailer. You mean of my movie? You know what I mean? Like I have the Marilyn Monroe movie.
So let's talk about Marilyn Monroe movie. People who would be interested in that movie. Who would be interested in that movie?
It's fun what I can do. It's fun to do this.
Okay,
but I'm actually seriously having a conversation.
Good, we can do both.
Okay.
Okay, so would it be, what's the target demographic?
Women.
Okay, so we're gonna buy space. We're gonna buy ad space on Vogue.com.
Do you think you might have encouraged him?
I don't think I purposely encouraged him. At first, I tried to, volley a bit with him. If he would make a comment, I would try to catch it and return it in a way that felt a little safer than the way he threw it at me. Now I see he's trying to, in any way you can, move me into that zone of comfortable then uncomfortable and confused and vulnerable, and recognizing that he's powerful and I'm not, and that I need this deal from him, and he has the power to give it to me.
We can have like to win 2 VIP passes to the premiere in New York, and they have to like it. So now you're generating all these likes on your Facebook page.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to use your service.
Good.
On Marilyn Monroe.
Good.
And then, you can sign me up, tell your boss.
And so he's going from almost pulling a trigger on using this platform to then he put his hand up under the table, up my dress. I was trying to save face a bit. At first, I was trying to kind of manage the situation. There was a combination of confidence and naivety that led me to, this dynamic that we see now.
Data's so hot, right?
What's that?
Data's so hot.
It is hot.
A little bit. It's a little high. That's a little high. So another thing I was thinking is, Sarah. I don't know how much you were involved, but the Sarah Jessica Parker movie with Skyrocket. Were you using Skyrocket? Some kind of app thing. I don't know, never mind. It was like a buy the look, where they wanted to, in the trailer, they wanted people to be able to buy her clothing, so they partnered with Outlook and whatever, Blue Fly.
It's not me.
Okay, whatever. I can do that too.
I tried to keep it on script in terms of pitching him the product, but
he was still touching you on the shoulder.
He was still touching me on the shoulder.
What's running through your head as that's happening?
What do I do? How did I get myself here? I lost my train of thought, and I was trying so hard to gain back my own mental footing. At some point, his whole affect changed, and he looked like a predator. His eyes became dark. I was reeling over the dynamic he created and was controlling, and I couldn't understand how to counterbalance him, and the answer is it wasn't possible. But at the time, I didn't know that, and I was sort of struggling with it.
What would you say to someone who might watch that and say, well, Melissa was flirting with him? Is that what you see when you watch it?
It was more tricky than I think it's possible to judge from looking at it. I worked on Wall Street before I went to business school, and I worked in an environment that was heavily male-dominated. I thought I could handle it. I had never met anyone that I couldn't handle until Harvey Weinstein.
Some water.
When you go to the kitchen you adjust the angle of the computer. I did. Why?
I knew that I was losing the ability to control the situation and keep it professional. So I had entered that fight or flight mode, and I was scared of him.
What was that? I've got to go edit a movie, but I'll meet you somewhere. Meet you for a drink.
What time?
It's 3:34. At 5:30 Tribeca Grand.
Were you under the impression that that meeting was to close the deal, potentially?
Yes. So it wasn't at 10 p.m. It wasn't an invitation to come to his hotel room. It was an invitation to go to a hotel lobby that was within blocks of the office. And so that to me felt much safer than being alone with him in his office. He walked in with a brisk stride and found me in the lobby, didn't even sit down. And I had ordered a Diet Coke, and he threw cash on the table. And he said, "Hey, we're going this way." We get into the elevator, and before I know it, he opens the door and closes it and locks it. And I look around. I said, "I'm in Harvey Weinstein's hotel room. How did I get myself here?" And that's probably the wrong question to ask myself: how did I get myself here? But that's what I was doing the entire time. It's difficult to explain, but he is a master predator.
Weinstein denies all accusations of rape. His lawyer at the time, Benjamin Brafman, told us that there was no evidence of anything forceful in the video, only casual, awkward flirting from both parties. He also said that it was produced by Melissa to help her case in a civil lawsuit seeking money. For Melissa and many of the other accusers, this video doesn't just reveal bad behavior behind a locked door. It's also evidence of what they refer to as the Weinstein complicity machine, a system designed to serve up young women and look the other way.
They put money over morals, and I want my daughter to grow up in a world where decisions are made driven by a sense of humanity and compassion, and people are held accountable, because it's no longer just, it's not just Harvey Weinstein. It's many people who could have done something and didn't.
I feel incredibly angry that Harvey harmed so many women, and that so many people supported his behavior. I think that's been the hardest thing to recognize, is that we were all duped, but duped by groups of people.
The only way someone like Harvey Weinstein gets away with what he did for so long to so many people is because there are people facilitating it around him. It's not just people looking the other way, it's people making it happen.
I think it was about business. They prioritized business over his behavior, being very immoral, unethical. It was all about winning the Oscars.
And the Oscars kept coming, until something unexpected brought down the king of Hollywood. By 2017, the Weinstein Company was a juggernaut worth millions. Harvey Weinstein was part of the network of the ultra-famous, uber-wealthy, and mega-powerful.
I will be embarrassing many superstars tonight, as usual, and I'm probably in that rare position to be able to get away with it, because, unfortunately, what can they do about it?
But then, something extraordinary happened. A small group of women published their stories. That included Rose McGowan, who had finally decided it was time.
I've been plotting and planning and playing my own game of chess because culturally we weren't there. You know, we weren't there, and I knew if I had just come out in some little story, I would have been crushed. They painted me as if I was erratic and crazy for years, and it would just go into their playbook. So I had to wait, and I had to bide my time.
Zelda Perkins broke free of her non-disclosure agreement.
I realised there must be lots of other people in my position, and that it was really important to show that if I broke the agreement, the earth wouldn't open up and swallow me, and that it would give other people the courage to come forward, and that we could just get this over and done with and expose him properly and send him down.
They got their timing right. Some of the most famous names in Hollywood came forward, alongside dozens of others.
It was one thing that the article came out, and I thought, okay, well, great, they got him, if you will. It was right after that he said, oh, it's such a good story, I want to buy the movie rights. It was such a condescending, disrespectful comment that I knew I had to do something. And he was threatening to sue the New York Times, and I thought, oh, absolutely not. I mean, I'll put my face out there.
I had no intention of saying anything publicly because, honestly, who am I? I'm not, a major film star. But I knew those women were telling the truth. And I couldn't believe how brave they were for coming out against him. And so when a reporter called me and said that he had heard that something had happened to me in the past, I said, yeah, I'll tell you everything.
I'm telling the truth, and I did nothing wrong. And I had to kind of repeat that to myself, to give myself the courage to just put something that was very private and very traumatizing out there.
I didn't imagine the story to be as big as it was. I really didn't. I thought that it would be out there and he would deny it and probably pay people to keep quiet about it and pay to make it go away. I mean, that's what he's always done. But I felt like at least I would feel like I did my part. But the story didn't go away because all of a sudden, all of these women started coming out of the woodwork like it was an avalanche of accusations against him, more than he could keep track of or try and keep quiet. And then I realized, wow, this is really happening.
The house of cards came tumbling down with astonishing speed.
I'm trying my best.
Thank you, man.
Harvey Weinstein's second wife left him. He was sacked from his own company, and he checked into a rehab clinic for sex addiction.
I'm not doing okay.
You're not?
I'm trying. I gotta get help, guys. You know what? We all make mistakes. Second chance, I hope. Okay?
No problem.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
But from the ashes of his entertainment empire rose the Me Too movement, and with it, a global reckoning on consent and the abuse of power.
I can't say that I anticipated the global aspect of it, but I was hoping that it would show people everywhere that they could topple a power structure, that it would have a big domino effect.
I have been silenced for 20 years. I have been slut-shamed. I have been harassed.
Would you call what has been sparked a revolution?
I think it's completely revolutionary. I can't remember the last time there was one, other than, there's the civil rights movement, there's the gay rights movement. We needed a revolution, we needed a reset. Women have played nice for a real long time. I didn't suspect it was getting women very far.
The thing that puts it in perspective for me is that so many men, they're saying, do we just live in fear or, feel uncomfortable or question how we're acting all the time? And it's like women have been doing that all of their lives, and, welcome to our world.
The movement grew, some feeling its power, others testing its limits. Me Too touching every part of society.
It's got to stop. I mean, it's really mind-blowing that women are treated this way, and that we have all been told we have to just put up with it. It's just the way it is. Well, guess what? It ain't that way anymore.
In May 2018, Harvey Weinstein was arrested and appeared in court charged with sex crimes.
This defendant used his position, money, and power
to lure young women into situations where he was able to violate them sexually. Our investigation is ongoing, and we have encouraged other survivors to come forward.
Seeing him in handcuffs, made me cry. I never thought I would see the day, that he would be in handcuffs. It was amazing.
I hope he's convicted. I hope this is a man who ruined lives. I mean, he ruined lives. He crushed dreams. He really destroyed so many women. I mean, he ran this town. He was the guy. If you wanted to be in a film, and if you wanted to be in good award-winning films, he was the only one to go to. So I hope he pays for that.
It's important for other men to know, you want to act this way, then you're going to lose everything. And you should lose everything because you have crushed, and I mean crushed, a lot of women.
The moment left some of Weinstein's former colleagues reflecting on the end of an era they were once so proud of.
Instead of it being like, oh, you were at the top indie shop that changed the film business in the 90s, it's now like, oh, you work for Harvey Weinstein. He sounds like a real pig.
It leaves such a bad taste in your mouth. I don't want to relive it. It's truly horrifying, what he's done. And he deserves everything he gets.
It's like having somebody retroactively pull the rug out from under your 20s and saying it didn't really matter. It was all just awful. You know, when people in my life found out that I used to work for Miramax, they were impressed. And I was proud of that. And now, I used to work at a New York-based film company. You know, I'm not going to say it if I'm not asked. Because I'm ashamed of it. I should be ashamed of it.
The impulse to worship Weinstein rather than challenge him may have had consequences on a jaw-dropping scale. Dozens of women have joined forces to sue him, and their lawyer believes there could be many more.
How many women do you think Harvey Weinstein may have targeted?
I think we're talking about hundreds. I think it could be near 1,000. I think that based on what we know and what has already been made public, at least 150 women have come forward in some way. On top of that, we have employees who said that there were women in his office 3 times a week where they would have to go in and clean up after him, knowing that he had just done something and ejaculated. So if you're talking about 3 times a week, at least, for all the number of years that he's been in power at Miramax and the Weinstein Company, that's a lot of women.
And there are questions about how much really has shifted.
Do you think there are other Harvey Weinsteins out there in Hollywood?
I know for a fact there are other Harvey Weinsteins in Hollywood right now. I could name 20 people off the top of my head right now. It's Hollywood. They think if they get the ugly guy gone, then they can return to their perfect looking world and still continue as they continue. You know, they think that basically it's like a red herring for the world. Look, see, we got rid of him. They didn't get rid of him. They didn't do anything of the kind. They gave him new deals and saved his business over and over.
Many of the accusers believe that lasting change will only come if there is victory in the courts, not just against Weinstein himself, but the businesses and people they believe protected him.
And so if we can send the message to these companies and these people who run these companies and set a precedent that protecting predators actually costs you more money than dealing with them and doing the right thing, then maybe things will start to change.
We need to start holding people accountable for witnessing abuses of power and not stopping it, not saying something, not intervening. Had people been more vocal and not said, yeah, that's Harvey, or yeah, we have to live with that. You don't. We don't have to live with things that are illegal and abusive, and we don't have to live with being raped when we think we're going to a business meeting.
The environment has to be changed. You know, the system that enables the behavior. You know, this is much bigger than Harvey Weinstein, and it's much bigger than gender. It's about power, and it's about how we respond as a culture to power.
There has been story after story, but Harvey Weinstein has consistently denied all allegations of non-consensual sexual contact. His brother Bob and other executives named in lawsuits also deny any wrongdoing. The Weinstein story and the fallout continue.